All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Vanessa Chalem. I'm an ISV technical evangelist here at Salesforce. And I'm here to share with you today about our app deployment kit, the ADK, and some insights when working with Salesforce DX and industry clouds. So before we get started, I just want to go through the forward-looking statement that any and all purchasing decisions should be made with Salesforce existing products. All right, so in today's presentation, I'm going to go through Salesforce DX for industry clouds. We'll go through some of the ins and outs of some configuration. And then we're going to be going through the ADK. What is this new toolkit? How can you start leveraging it? And at the end, I'll wrap up with documentation and resources that you can take home to get started. All right, so today we have this scenario where we have our ISV. His name is Cody. You guys all know Cody, right? And we have an application that Cody has built. It's a credit line increase application. And so Cody wants to demo this credit line increase application to one of their customers, Boston Bank. Just taking you back to my hometown, Boston. We have any other Red Sox fans here? All right, so let's see how Cody could be doing their demo for their customer. So since their application is actually built on Financial Services Cloud, they have two ways of doing this. The first way would be the manual route. So when we're talking about the manual route, it's basically installing Financial Services Cloud on a developer org and then installing their application so that they could showcase their application to their customer. This could take approximately 20 hours when we're talking about all of the pre-work, the setup, configuration, and all of those post-deploy steps, as well as here it is prone to manual error. So we have another use case here. With the click of a button, they could actually automate this whole process and spin up a demo quickly and easily. So you might be wondering, what is this click of a button? So let me just get right into the demo and show you. So here, Cody has a page for their solution engineers to be able to spin up quick and easy demos. So you'll see here they can click this button, create baseline demo, and basically it'll take them to this page. We'll type in our email address. And it'll start spinning up this demo org for me. So for the sake of time, I actually have it ready for us here to go. So you'll see that this application, what it did is it cloned my GitHub repository. It created a scratch org. It did some package installations, some post-deploy steps, executed assigning permission set, executed some Apex classes. And now if we click that launch button, we actually have a scratch org ready to go with our financial services application. So you'll see here, our application here has all of the applications we need for Financial Services Cloud. We have, for example, the Rachel Adams account, and we can take a look and see all of the sample data that's been loading. And so here, as you saw, all I had to do was click that one button, and it basically spun up a scratch org for me, ready to go with all of the configuration that I would need to be able to demo to our customer. So you may be wondering, how was this all possible with the click of one button? But we do have to take into consideration the setup time that's needed before being able to click one button and you're ready to go. So the first time around, we do have some setup that you need to do. But once that's done, you can just run with this. And moving forward, it's just one click of one button. So what is this setup? So the ADK is comprised of three components. We have a GitHub Repository, Salesforce DX commands, and the Heroku Deployer. And I'll be going through each of these steps. So before I break it down, we'll just take a look at this feedback loop. So basically, with our ADK, you're able to set up your project with a GitHub repository. You spin up the org with the Heroku Deployer, and then we have this feedback loop where you're able to request a new feature branch, for example, and basically have your demo engineers set up that new feature branch on Git, and then you're able to spin up a new org from that. And so just to briefly show you, if we go back to our demo site, let's say, for example, here I have submit a demo feature request. And so here we're really using the issues from Git. And so in Git, I could say, submit a new issue, making it a Lightning Web Component for the retail banking console. And then once our demo engineer sets that up, then they could just set up the Heroku Deployer to point to that new GitHub branch. So let's take a look at each of the components. We'll get started with the project repository. So specifically in this case, we're talking about Financial Services Cloud. So I'm just going to go through a bit of detail when it comes to using industry clouds with Salesforce DX. So for example, for Financial Services Cloud and for Health Cloud, there are some prerequisites to be able to use Salesforce DX. So for example, you'll see here in my project scratch definition file, we have the prerequisites listed right here. And you do have access to this GitHub repository if you guys want to take a look after as a sample. But so basically, the features that I need to enable right here, that's communities and contacts to multiple accounts and person accounts. This is because person accounts are required when it comes to financial services, and Health Cloud, it is one of the best practices. So here we're just showing you how your Scratch org, you could set it up to work with these prerequisites for the industry clouds. And then we have an Apex class that does that data load for us. So the Apex class is where I'm having, for example, like sample data classes, and I call that Apex class, and it's doing that data load. So before I continue, I'm going to show you the rest of the GitHub repository. And I'll be providing links to this at the very end. But basically, the GitHub repository for Financial Services Cloud, this sample repo we've created, how I created it was I basically went into a Scratch org, did those prerequisites. So I had communities enabled. I had person accounts enabled. I installed the packages for Financial Services Cloud, and then manually did all of those post-deploy steps, which I showed you earlier, which could take up to approximately 20 hours of work. So you do all of those manual post-deploy steps, and then you go and you pull that as Scratch org metadata. And once you have that pulled, now you're ready to go, and you can basically just add it to your GitHub repository, and for future, just deploy it to new Scratch orgs, push it as metadata. So that's exactly what we did here, and we actually have all of that captured both under the SFDX source and the MDAPI source. You can take a look at our GitHub repository and kind of see all of the pieces coming together. So apart from the project on SFDX, the next piece of the ADK is the DX Apex scripts. So if we take a look here, what these DX Apex scripts are is this bash script that I have in my GitHub repository called the org-init.sh file. So the org-init.sh file is basically a bash script that's a compilation of DX scripts. And so these steps are basically what we're automating in the process. So once my GitHub repository is cloned, what the ADK was doing when I showed earlier is it creates my Scratch org, and then it does those package installations. We're going to do some metadata deployments. We're going to do some pushes, and then we're going to assign that permission set that we need for Financial Services Cloud. We're going to execute some demo data, and then we open our Scratch org, and we're ready to go. And so this is just an example use case that we have here with financial services, but this really could fill the need for any of your applications that you might have, where you have kind of these prerequisite steps, and you just need to basically deploy it, and you're typically doing this manually or step-by-step in the command line. So you can just write a bash script, have this basically be able to execute with the click of one button. So once you have your bash script ready to go in our org-init.sh file, then you'll see I have this command here, execute create demo data setup. So what my execute create demo data setup is doing here is it actually has a script to do a password reset for the user. And the reason we're doing this is not mandatory, but Scratch orgs don't send password resets to your user upon creation. So we found that it filled a need that we had. So basically, you're able to, with this script, send a password reset to your user so that now they're going to be able to re-authenticate into the Scratch org as needed. So we have both of these put together. You'll see I have that in my FSC demo pack GitHub repository. I have that org-init.sh file. And then within the config folder is where I put that create demo data script. So After that, we're ready to go. We're basically fulfilled the need of what we consider making any SFDX project ADK ready. So the next step is taking a look at the Heroku Deployer. So the Heroku Deployer is really this nice and friendly UI that when you click this button, it's going to take you here, ask you for your email address, and then go through that process of cloning your repository, going through all of those steps in your bash script, and then actually creating your scratch org for you. And so you'll see here, this was actually a tool created by Shane McLaughlin. He's a Salesforce employee. Unfortunately or fortunately, Shane is actually presenting a session about his tool right at this moment. So you could definitely check out his recording, but I'm going to show you a very quick demo of how to set up his tool. So you go here to his GitHub repository, and I'll also be sharing these links. So in his GitHub repository, you'll see that he walks you step by step. How do you set up your own Heroku Deployer? So you have to create a connected application in your Salesforce Developer Hub, and then you click this button here, Deploy to Heroku, and that's what's going to take you to his Heroku Deployer. So you create a Heroku account, and then in his Heroku Deployer, it'll walk you through a set of steps where you need to fill out certain configuration variables, and he basically walks you through it in the README. So once you have your own Heroku Deployer application ready to go, then you're able to come here, and you'll see here, this TE-ADK Heroku app is my own Heroku Deployer application. So once you have your own ready to go, then in the URL right here, you'll see I have launch !template equals, and then I have a link to my GitHub repository. And then this ampersand email equals required. The email equals required is so that it asks me for my email address here, and that's the email address where I'm getting that password reset to. So just to quickly wrap it up, you'll see these are all of the files that you need to put together in order to make any project that you have ADK ready. So first, in your GitHub repository, we're going to need that org.init.sh file. That org.init.sh file is going to be that bash script where you're basically going through step by step what you want your automation to be doing. So creating that scratch org, doing those post-deploy steps, assigning any permission sets. And then we have that create demo data setup file, and that's what's going to do that password reset and also any other Apex that you want to be calling on there. And then you create your Heroku Deployer application, and you link it to your GitHub repository, as I'm showing right here. And so just to recap, once you're ready to go, you're basically going to be able to spin up your org right here. It's going to look like this. You just click that launch button, and you're ready to go with your application. All right, and just to recap, as I mentioned before, the ADK provides us this opportunity to have any SFDX project that you've set up on your GitHub repository. You can quickly and easily spin it up with the Heroku Deployer and then provide that feedback loop where it's an opportunity for your solution engineers, for example, to request new feature branches and then just have those quickly and easily spun up. All right, so in summary, as you saw, when I went into the ADK, all I had to do was click that one button. I was able to spin up a scratch org ready to go for our ISV Cody to be able to showcase their application to Boston Bank. And similarly, you can do the same. You could set up your ADK and similarly be able to showcase any features that you have, any POCs, quickly and easily utilizing scratch orgs and the ADK. So in summary, the benefit is that it's efficient, it's very quick, it's time-saving, it's an easy and quick process to set up, and it enables that collaboration as we're working with GitHub. All right, so these are the links to the sample repositories that I showcased before. We have a sample repository for both financial services and health cloud that my team has put together. And this will show you that prerequisite piece that I was talking about. What do these industry clouds have as prerequisites in order to be working with Salesforce DX? And then it'll show you also that org.init.sh file that I created. How are we automating this process? So this is definitely a place where you can come in, take a look at what we have, and use it as a sample when you're creating your own projects, your own GitHub repositories. And I just want to mention with that the ADK is not a tool, it's not a product that Salesforce is putting out there. Rather, it's an open source tool tool. It's a compilation of Salesforce DX, the Heroku Deployer, that we've put together and provided as a toolkit for you guys. And we do have support for these different features on their own. And in terms of the toolkit, you are able to post questions on both the partner community, the Trailblazer community, see one of us, and we're happy to kind of guide you along the way. So on that note, I do have these ADK resources. We have a link to our documentation. We have an ADK sample repository. So this ADK sample repository is going to show you what you would need for any baseline project in terms of the org init sh script, in terms of having that create demo data setup Apex class. And then we have a link to the Heroku Deployer, which is Shane McLaughlin's tool. Definitely also check out the recording on his sessions. It's a really, really neat tool and a lot of stuff that you can leverage with it. And just to wrap it up, we have some really good Salesforce DX resources. We have just getting started with Salesforce DX, continuous integration with Salesforce DX. So these are always good resources to have at hand. And we have some more Salesforce DX resources. We have the developer guide and groups in both the partner community and the Trailblazer community that could provide you resources for both Salesforce DX and also for working with our tool and industry clouds. And before I wrap it up, I just want to thank my whole team who couldn't be here today. But it does take a village to put a tool like this together, to put a presentation like this together. So I just want to thank everyone from my team. And thank you also for being here at the App Exchange Vista. We have a lot of more opportunities today. Check out sessions related to ISVs, one-on-one consultations for our App Exchange partners. So thank you again for checking it out. And thank you for being here. We wouldn't be here without you guys. So I'll take questions here, and I'll also be able to stick around a bit for some questions and answers. Yeah.
How one might handle particularly licensing issues with CPQ and FSL, how one might get those licenses set up in the org so that those permission sets could be assigned, because that's one of my biggest problems. Health Cloud is great to see, but my biggest problem is demoing a CPQ or an FSL or using anything other than trial for those orgs.
And you're using Salesforce DX for that, or?
Yeah, well, I would like to use DX.
Okay.
I would like to be able to spin up a scratch org that has FSL and FSL permissions.
Yeah. Okay, so the question was about using, Okay, the question was about using FSL and CPQ for with Salesforce DX in terms of licensing. So I'm going to take your business card after this session, and then we'll connect with the PM and kind of give you more information around that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know if there's a way to include person accounts in the scratch org snapshots?
Yeah. So his question was about person accounts in the Scratch org. So if you take a look at both of our sample repositories, so Financial Services Cloud is fully on person accounts, and then Health Cloud has that ability where it could be on person accounts or not person accounts. But you'll see that we have those prerequisites of how do you set it up with person accounts, so enabling person accounts, and then also we do have a data script that does that import. So I can show you at the end of the session, and you can take a look at some of the sample information we provide around that. Yeah. Are there any other questions? All right, so I'll stick around for some time, and definitely if anyone has any questions, feedback around the documentation, please be in contact with me. As I mentioned earlier, it's VCHLM on Twitter, VCHLM at Salesforce, Vanessa Chelem on LinkedIn, and thank you so much for being here.